please. This county legislative body is now in session. Chairman Clay Blazer presiding, Mayor Crystal Ottinger present.
Mr. Law, will you lead us in the prayer, please?
Yes, dear Lord, thank you, Lord, again for the health, strength you give us. Lord, just watch over us tonight. Lord, just teach us tonight, Lord. We just do your will. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Mr. Hicks, will you lead us in the prayer?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we want to thank everyone for coming out here tonight for this special call session. The following items of business will be considered. Number one, roll call.
Love Henderson.
Because I'm employee of the Cocke County Board of Education, I have a conflict of interest in the proposal about to be voted. However, I declare that my argument and my vote answer only to my conscience and to my obligation to my constituents and the citizens this body represents.
Calvin Ball.
Here.
Lonnie Ottinger.
Because I'm an employee of the Cocke County Highway Department, I have a conflict of interest in the proposal about to be voted. However, I declare that my argument and my vote answer only to my conscience and my obligation to my constituents and the citizens this body represents.
Clay Blazer.
Because I'm an employee of the Cocke County School System, I have a conflict of interest in the proposal about to be voted. However, I declare that my argument and my vote answer only my conscience and the obligations to my constituents and the citizens this body represents here.
Cindy Hope.
Because I'm an employee of the Cocke County Highway Department, I have a conflict of interest in the proposal about to be voted. However, I declare that my argument and my vote answer only to my conscience and to my obligation to my constituents and the citizens this body represents here.
Terry Dawson.
Here.
Andy Tripp.
Because I'm an employee of the Cocke County Sheriff's Department, I have a conflict of interest in the proposal about to be voted. However, I declare that my argument and my vote answer only my conscience and to my obligation to my constituents and the citizens this body represents here.
Shalay Benson.
Because I'm an employee of the Cocke County Clerk's Office, I have a conflict of interest in the proposal about to be voted. However, I declare that my argument and my vote answer only to my conscience and to my obligation to my constituents and the citizens this body represents here.
Ben Hicks.
Here.
Robert Green.
Here.
Mitch Fine.
Because I am an employee of the Cocke County Board of Education, I have a conflict of interest in the proposal about to be voted. However, I declare that my argument and my vote answer only to my conscience, to my obligation to my constituents and the citizens this body represents.
Gwen Roach.
Because I'm an employee of the Cocke County School System, I have a conflict of interest in the proposal about to be voted. However, I declare that my argument and my vote answer only to my conscience and to my obligation to my constituents and the citizens this body represents here.
Skip Ellison.
Because I am an employee of the Cocke County Fire Department, I have a conflict of interest in the proposal about to be voted. However, I declare that my argument and my vote answer only to my conscience and to my obligations to my constituents and the citizens this body represents here.
Jimmy Lindsey.
Here.
14 ayes, no absent.
Item number 2, in the matter of comments from the county mayor.
I would like to take a moment to address you all as a commission, and I'm going to read this straight off the paper so I don't miss anything. I want to start by thanking you all for the efforts made in regards to 2016-2017 budget. I know this has been a difficult budget process. I'm asking again, as I have asked multiple times during this process, for you to cut both fire department positions. Numerous members of the public, in reference to this matter, have contacted me. There is concern from the general public in regards to Cocke County's employment practices. They express concerns for most departments in regards to nepotism, overly employed departments, wherein one person's work hands have to wait until one employee moves from a computer before another work hand can use it to provide the requested services. And positions being passed down from families like a legacy or a birthright. The general public already has a negative perception of our hiring policies, and I would like to start with removing both of the unnecessary positions as a way to change public opinion and restore their confidence in us. Also, I know you were told that some local businesses had asked for extra training within the fire department, like confined space rescue, but that is not the case. Commissioner Ellison contacted Partnership President Lucas Graham and asked Lucas to contact the businesses to see if they could utilize the extra services. In this case, people and information were manipulated as a means to an end to get unnecessary positions in the fire department approved. Moreover, it is this type of action that our constituents want to see stopped. As public servants, we are the ones that need to sacrifice to make sure the general public is provided with services they need without being unduly taxed. It shouldn't be that the public is asked to sacrifice so we can have everything that we want. Between the manipulated information in regards to the need for additional fire department employees, the comparison to other more populated counties, and the little to no ISO difference, I see no reason why you would add the additional expense of unjustifiable employees to the 2016-2017 budget. I've been asked by my constituents if I would veto the budget if the unnecessary positions were left in, and my answer is that I would respectfully consider it. Not to be controversial or to cause animosity or to drag this budget process out even longer, but because like you all, I am charged with making decisions that I feel are in the best interest of the county. I would love to be able to look each of you in the eye and tell you tonight with certainty my decisions in regards to a veto on a budget that included the fire positions instead of you receiving notice from the county clerk's office. Unfortunately, I cannot give you a decision tonight because the laws pertaining to a veto leave some room for interpretation. With the budgeting law stating that if a county does not have a budget in place by September 1st, then that county's government would essentially have to be shut down. I cannot act until I know for sure that a veto from me would not disrupt county services. Again, I cannot stress enough that any action taken by me in regards to this or any matter is done respectfully at the urging of a majority of the constituents that have contacted me and with the best intentions of Cocke County. And I ask again that you all cut the unnecessary fire department positions.
All right, number 3 in the matter of comments from the county attorney.
I don't have any at this point, Mr. Chairman.
All right, number 4 in the matter of comments from the county finance director.
Not unless there are questions for me.
Anyone have any questions for me? All right, if none, number 5, the mayor of comments from members of the county legislative body. Before we get started, I would like to say that as we kind of work through this entire process, this particular budget is by no means a perfect scenario. I think that there are always going to be situations where you have different groups or places that are maybe have things that they could use and not necessarily in place there. I mean, we are aware of that. I will say that both of the options that are presented to you tonight, many of y'all have came at that meeting, there at that meeting on Thursday. Both of these options tonight do include no tax increase, which I think was something that would seem to be, that was very important, and I think that's something for you to note. And I just hope that hopefully, if we have any other of those major concerns or decisions, let's go ahead and discuss those now, so we can get those out in the air, so we'll be able to continue to move forward. Do I have any other? Yes, Mr. Williams.
Mr. Chairman, personally, I wish you had recommended just one of them. But I've got a question to ask. I've looked all through the budget. I don't know where anybody has or not. But and the litter crew part of it, on state retirement, on one of them is $3,000 and some odd dollars. On the other one is $33,000 and some odd dollars. Now, where's that other $30,000 going? And also, if you total it up at the bottom, the one that money's added in there. One on A shows 3,000, the other shows 33,000.
What page are you on, Mr. Williams?
34, page 34. I guess I worked the letter for 15 years, so it's just naturally I went to that one first to look at it. So, that's a big difference in money though.
Where's the difference at?
And state retirement. That's the third one down.
I'll say on behalf of the sheriff, that deal that she oversees, that's not something on our behalf. I think it may be
I don't see.
typical error.
Are you in budget A or budget B?
On budget A is 31, and then on budget B is 33,000.
I appreciate you catching that, that's just strictly a typo.
Okay.
We agree.
I know that if you vote on the one budget though, you got that money in there.
No, we'll take it out, no,
We'll take it out?
that's strictly a typo
Okay.
on that one.
Like I said, I worked the middle for 15 years. I Naturally, I went to that one first and looked at it, I had to really go through it.
Now, that is actually,
She's just had an extra three.
that's just an extra 3 that should come out of that budget. But that's significant, and I appreciate you catching that, and, we'll take $30,000 just right off the top of that budget and fix it.
I know the committee's worked hard, I'm not being critical, I just, like I said, if I hadn't worked in that department, or the sheriff, I probably may not have even noticed it. But, I guess, it's hard
No,
to.
this is probably like a version 11 that we've done.
I just went to it first, to make sure Derek and Deb was treating them nice, you know.
But you're
No,
correct.
that's, as you can see, that's a typo.
Okay.
That's a typo.
Well, it's what we need to catch.
Yes, it is. It's definitely a typo that we need to catch.
I don't have anything else.
Okay, all right, any other comments? Or concerns? From members of the committee?
And we'll read that, if we get to that budget, we should take that right off the top.
Because that's only in option B.
That's
right?
only an option B. Option A was,
All right, any other?
I feel it takes more than just balancing dollar-wise to balancing the budget. Three main concerns of citizens of the county is their security, the sheriff's department, the jobs, and also with payment. And looking at these two different budgets, one addresses two and one addresses the other one, but one's left plumb out. And I know that it was a request of the highway superintendent to take the 400,000 out. I totally disagree with that. And I'll just be honest with you, I am not for either one of these budgets. I think it's not fair. We talk about fair for departments and fair for individuals. What about the fairness for the city, the county, the citizens of this county? Having to drive on roads and these things has not been taken care of.
I'll have to second it too. I'm not for either budget either.
That's my personal feelings. Just looking out, listening to the constituents. I got several calls from the citizens. That's the three main concerns. You stop anywhere and talk to any individual or group of people, that's the three things that they address. It's important to this county. That's all I got to say.
Any other concerns? Or questions?
I'd like to say, Clay, that in looking at these, there's parts of it I'm all for, but there are still parts. And I know I've missed like 3 meetings straight because of in-services, but still, there's parts of it that are great, I think. And I think it's good for what's going on, but there's other parts that's not. Even though we've got a balanced budget, it's still, I agree with Robert and Jimmy, it's still not really balanced the way it should be.
All right, other comments? I mean, I think that one of our biggest issues, and then we had this at our last meeting, and I think if you came to a lot of our budget committee meetings, you would sort of know. I mean, I think one of the parts that made this the most difficult, at least from my standpoint, is knowing exactly what everybody was looking for out of a particular budget. And I don't necessarily mean, I'm not talking about even that you have a specific agenda that you're sending out there, but I mean, even just knowing, for example, and I will put one of the big differences between option A and option B is the sheriff's department funding, not knowing necessarily who was for certain in favor of that and who wasn't in favor of that. And I think I see Commissioner Crenshaw shaking his head, that was a real issue kind of going through there. Who would be in favor of a tax increase, who would not be in favor of a tax increase? I mean, and I think we're looking at other issues there because, I mean, part of that was addressed in our first budget, but obviously that didn't meet, that meant all the particular, let's say, wants of those things that we were talking about, security, jobs, and paving, but it included a tax increase, which I know many of you philosophically are against. So I know that one didn't necessarily pass. I don't know, I'll have to say, and I'm very willing to, and have been throughout the process, I'm very willing, and I think we all are, to kind of work to something. But I mean, I think we have to, when you look at all those things kind of combined together, I don't see, again, personally, unless I'm looking at it from the wrong avenue, I don't see a way to have all of those things that you're talking about without a tax increase. So I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I think that that's one of those things, and that's one reason why I said, I don't know that any of these is the perfect budget, I don't know that it's the perfect scenario, but I think it's it's a series of compromises that we're gonna have to kind of look at here, and unfortunately, especially if we look at government, that's a big part about what it does, is it's about those particular compromises. So, I mean, again, I understand where everybody stands on their particular position, but I mean, that's just, as we move forward, I think that's something that we all have to kind of consider. It's very difficult to get something that we all want, that we're all gonna agree on, and it's gonna meet all of our particular needs.
And we also did talk about option C, which did offer money back to the highway department, but still.
And I will say, the one point that Mr. Ford made, and I mean, I know, like, and again, I don't want to put words in his particular mouth, but I mean, even he was talking about, and that's one of those situations, I would agree that paving is a serious issue that we have in this county. But again, and I'll look to, but I mean, $400,000 even at that, you're looking at out of, now correct me, I think we have about 435 miles of paved road, is that not correct? And again, that's looking at most 7 miles. So, I mean, I think our bigger issue that we have to look at as far as paving is concerned, although I think that's an issue that needs to be addressed. You're dealing with, we're gonna pave 7 of the 435 miles and fix that problem. But I think a bigger issue, and I think that's one that we all know about as far as our roads are concerned, those 7 miles, that then means that next year, if we pave those 7 miles, that leaves 428 more to go. And I mean, $400,000 year after year is not cutting it. I mean, I think the last time that Mr. Ford came to us, he mentioned we needed $1.5 million per year for the next 15 years, and that would pay all of our roads.
And you have to look at the situation too. You do 7 miles this year, the life of them take 10. Okay, you're gonna get 7 miles, 10 years, you've got 70 miles. Okay, when you get that 7, you're going back to draw one, start again with time. So the little money we're getting ain't a drop in the bucket.
I mean, and again, and I know that, and I think that's one reason why Mr. Ford kind of brought that money to us. So, I mean, I would sort of say, I mean, although, I mean, I'm very keenly aware of the issue that roads create and are there. I mean, and there's no doubt about it. I don't think any of us in any of our districts, anybody out here would just think that we're driving on like these pristine roads. That's not an area that we've got, that's an area that needs to be addressed. But I think one of the main reasons why he brought that money back to us, to allow us to have a budget without a tax increase, and that's the sole reason why it is, based on these 2 budgets that we have here, the sole reason why we don't have tax increases, because he just sort of said, that's not no more difference than that's going to make, he can do without it.
That's what he explained.
I mean, that's kind of the way that he explained it. And I know some of you weren't here, and I know the other thing is too, is that's very difficult whenever you have your constituents call, or whenever you're speaking to someone in the general public. I mean, the thought is, if that's your mile of road that's being paved, then it does make a difference, and I totally am fully aware of that as well. I mean, like, that's something that you go way out there, but still, at the end of the day, I mean, you're looking at 7 miles of roads out of 435 that are paved, and then there's the gravel roads. That's not even bring those into the system. So I mean, again, and I know whenever we've talked about looking at the problems that we're kind of facing, that's a monumental task that we have to undertake as our.
My thing is, doing nothing, sitting on your hands, is that helping anything at all?
I mean, you're
I
absolutely.
understand the math, and I understand it's life, if you say and do nothing, what's gonna be done? 10 years down the road, if you do nothing.
Well, I mean, and I guess you're right. I mean, but I think that the other issue is, I mean, it's 6 of one, half does the other. At the same point in time, really in the process of 10 years using that money for paving 70 miles of roads out of 435, that's still kind of like doing nothing. That's a 6th of it. No 7.
Clay, you're right. You're gonna have to put some, make a show that just a little over 400,000. If we do it, we got a road 16 foot wide, 2 1/8 quarter thick, that's 2 inches to back. You're looking about 70,000. If we try and break it out, you're looking close to 100,000 a mile. So, actually, we're backing up really. We have been for several years.
And I guess, but I will say, and again, not to words in your mouth, Mr. Green, but I do think that what he's saying is that by keeping this money in there, we're not backing up as far as we would be by not doing anything. And I think maybe that's the sentiment that I'm getting from you all.
And I also get a lot of calls from constituents, especially out of the Cedarview area, the third district, complaints about the road condition. And they say, well, we've contacted the highway department, they tell us you ain't giving us no money to do nothing with. So if we continue to do nothing, yeah, we are accountable for that. That's why I bring up
That's a
this.
valid point. I just think that's one of those where you're between a rock and a hard place. Any other comments or concerns?
When you're talking about the roads, and Lonnie probably knows this, I know a lot better than me, but, isn't there a large amount of those roads that are only just a tenth or two in length, a tenth or two of a mile in length? I mean, if you break that down, you're looking at helping 70 roads in the county, if you do 1/10 of a mile.
When you get off the main roads in the county, though, you find some very rough roads.
Oh, yeah, sure,
Yeah,
I know
I
that.
traveled them for a long time. When you get off the main roads, in pretty good shape, they do a pretty good job. You know, like going up to the 15, but if you get off of it, say for example, then you're gonna find pretty rough road to travel. Ain't there so much they can do.
There
And I
are,
know that. I know
and a lot of our situation too that we have are, are things that we'll say that predate really even any of us that are here, where like we've taken a lot of roads into the county system that shouldn't have probably been taken in when they took them in, but they were, and they're ours now, and so now then we're responsible for keeping them up. I mean, and that's a big issue that we have. I mean, it's a separate issue, but it's still one that obviously really comes home to roost during budget time in particular. Yes.
Another, like, as you get on your roads, and I mean, I know we transfer our kids back and forth to school, and we have to do that, but that's why I brought up before, those big buses that we have. I got behind one last week, it was maybe a quarter of the way full, and that's their regular route now. When you take that gross weight vehicle on a shot and chipped road, and you're going over that every day, and you can get the vehicle almost half that weight for the area. I mean, that don't put those roads either at all that we're looking on travel every day for that.
Yeah, I mean, there are, I guess, as we've kind of gone through our budgetary process, and a lot of this is stuff we've discussed, we've heard before, I think there's a host of issues that are with that.
Our problem is, we don't have enough revenue coming in, and nobody wants to raise taxes, and we're always short of money to do some of the things we really need to do. I don't like to pay taxes either, because I live in the city, I pay them both. My city taxes went up over $200. I don't mind if they use the money wisely, you know what I mean? I don't mind paying a few more taxes, but we don't have enough revenue, and that's our problem. We all know that, that's the problem. We just don't have enough money on hand to do what we really need to do. Not what we want to do, but what we need to do. And I don't know the answer.
I guess if one of us did, it'd be.
I've been here 18 years, I still don't know the answer.
Right. Any other comments?
Lonnie, do you by chance know what Kim was hoping to purchase with the $200,000 for equipment? I know you all had discussed it being old money, and it was money that was given last year to the quarry, of $150,000, and they bought a dozer with it, a D6 dozer. And he transferred it over this year to highway equipment and added $50,000 to it to make the $200,000. Do you know what that was for?
The roller, we've got a boulder bed that we need a truck for, and to replace some of the wore out equipment.
A roller for payment? Well, we don't have any payment money. So you use it for the
Well,
shoot and chip too?
Well, you have to have a roller for the patches. So,
We also got pickups on the road that got 500,000 miles on, and the maintenance is very high on. We got a bunch of them. Even the one that I drive, and I'm on call 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. My vehicle took up 200, right at 230,000, and I still drive it. I'm proud of it. It gets the job done. If I break down, I'll call again.
Okay, do we have any other comment? All right, then number 6, we'll move on in the matter of approving the July 1, 2016 through June 30th, 2017 budget, including appropriations, resolutions, and capital outlay funding, including federal projects budget, including with the school system's budget. Thank you, Ms. Green.
Mr. Chairman, we recommend approval of the July 1, 2016 through July 30th, 2017 budget, including all appropriations, resolutions, and capital outlay funding. Waive the reading of the resolutions for the general fund, solid waste and sanitation fund, industrial and economic development fund, drug control fund, sports and recreation fund, highway and public works fund, general purpose school fund, central cafeteria fund, school transportation fund, general debt service fund, rural debt service fund, general capital projects fund, school federal projects, and that's option A.
Okay, we have that in the form of a motion. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Seconded from Mr. Trill. All right, at this point, any discussion?
I would like to say another thing concerning not only this one, but that one also, I guess a question, has there been any thought or consideration in these budgets, the effect that it will have on next year's budget? Or are we just only looking at the moment? And I'm just leaving that as a question.
I'll say for myself and I'll let other people address it. I mean, I think that we are aware of, potential issues that can come up next year. One of the comments that I'll just sort of simply say is, and I know like, I feel like to a certain extent we were fortunate this year, I thought a lot of the issues that we talked about that seem to be kind of looming out there for next year, I thought several of those might hit this year. As a matter of fact, I mean, that was really one of my main concerns with last year's budget. But as a result of just some, a couple of windfalls, notably with the TCRS reduction, as well as like, I mean, in particular, insurance rates didn't go up as high as they were going to, I mean, and a couple of other things. This year's budget didn't, I mean, I was afraid we were gonna have a significant, I mean, way significant shortfall, and we didn't have that this year. I think one of the biggest issues with any kind of budgetary process, and we're a little bit at an advantage because we're kind of down to the wire. I mean, our budget is supposed to be passed July 1, and I know that that's a process that we're ever working toward getting it to where we can pass a budget by June 30th. But I mean, there's a lot of things that are out there. It's very difficult to project out into the future. As far as if we were thinking about next year, I mean, I think that there are some things that we know that are on the horizon, but for myself, until I'm faced with them, I can't necessarily say how I'm going to deal with them. So, when and how we were developing this budget, I mean, I know Ann has talked about things, in particular, the director of schools, Mr. Moore came, and, you know, he really talked about some issues that he potentially could deal with, but again, if you look at their budget over the last couple of years, although there is that potential, we've seen that it's not sort of been as bad as it could have been in previous years. We may not be that lucky again. I'm not necessarily planning on that, but at the same point in time, as far as what a development is, to say that I've really taken into consideration, no. I think any time in any year that I've basically been on the budget committee, we've virtually almost always had a fund balance of less than $100,000 in the general fund and in other places, and I would not call that adequate to plan for any kind of future issues whatsoever. So, and that's sort of, in essence, not that it's right, but that's how we've operated county business for the last several years. And again, that's what happens when you run these lower fund balances. As a matter of fact, both of these budgets have higher fund balances than we've probably had in several years as far as a projection on the front end. Any other thoughts? All right, if not, we'll have a roll call.
Bud Henderson,
No.
Calvin Ball,
No.
Lonnie Ottinger,
No.
Clay Blazer,
Yes.
Cindy Holt. No. Terry Dawson,
Yes.
Andy Tritt,
Yes.
Shalay Benson,
Yes.
Ben Hicks,
No.
Robert Green,
No.
Mitch Fine,
No.
Gwen Roach,
Yes.
Skip Ellison,
No.
Jimmy Lindsey.
No.
Five ayes, 9 nays.
I mean, so I'm gonna think that now then if option A did not, then we would need to move on to just Doesn't know everything about option B.
Option B, Mr. Chairman, we recommend approval of the July 1, 2016 through June the 30th, 2017 budget, including all appropriations, resolutions, and capital outlay funding, and waive the reading of the resolution for the general fund, solid waste and sanitation fund, industrial and economic development fund, drug control fund, sports and recreation fund, highway and public works fund, general purpose school fund, central cafeteria fund, school transportation fund, general debt service fund, rural debt service fund, general capital projects fund, school federal projects.
Okay, we have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second is Mr. Ellison. All right, at this point, what discussion do we have?
Mr. Chairman, could I make a motion on this budget for a vote on it?
I think you could not.
The motion I'd like to make is to remove that fireman from the budget. That shows a new hire. We don't need a position, we definitely need the money somewhere else. I'm sure the sheriff.
Can we amend it at that point? I mean, let me just hold on for just a point of order, just a second, Mr. Lindsey.
Generally, after there's a second,
You got a motion for second on the floor, you can't.
unless you wanna make a motion to table it, and to rescind the motion, then back to discussion about it.
This is coming straight out of committee, so.
It doesn't mean you all can't change it here.
Yeah, there can be, I mean, I know that there can be amendments, I just don't know what's the proper, at which point's the proper time to.
Generally, we've done it prior to a second. If there's a second, there's a motion made that has to be voted on.
Okay.
See what I'm saying?
I do see what you're saying.
After
I guess
there's a
I'm saying-
second, it's been seconded to call for the vote at this point on that.
Okay, I guess
I
I'm
mean,
thinking at that point.
If it were to fail at this point,
Okay, if it would.
or if they were to rescind that, what the ones who just made first and second. But if it were to fail, you know, you talked about keeping them here anyway, so you might discuss that being changed, so whatever you want to
So if
do.
it fails, I can make a motion, that's what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, you're gonna be able to have
Okay,
discussion
I-
about
I-
amendment at that point.
All right, do we have any other discussion about this? All right, if not, we'll have a roll call.
Love Henderson,
Yes.
Calvin Ball,
No.
Monty Ottinger,
Yes.
Clay Blazer,
No.
Cindy Holt,
Yes.
Terry Dawson,
No.
Andy Tripp,
No.
Shalay Benson,
No.
Ben Hicks,
Yes.
Robert Green,
No.
Mitch Fine,
No.
Gwen Roach,
No.
Skip Ellison,
Yes.
Jimmy Lindsey.
No.
So at this point, Mr. Lindsey, you can make,
5 ayes, 9 nays.
so we gotta figure out something.
Can I make a motion now, remove the fireman position from it, we vote again
You may, on option B,
on option B?
all right, so your motion is to remove the fireman's position and re-vote on option B, so that's, all right. Do you have a motion, do you have a second?
No, I'm gonna discuss.
Hold on, we'll have to wait till we have the second, okay, do I have a second? All right, second, Mr. Drill, all right, at this point, yes, go ahead.
I think we better go ahead and move all county employees out of the budget because, this county's not grown, we've not seen any new revenue, we've not seen anything. We made it just fine without these people, so I recommend, I put it in form of motion that we remove all brand new county employees.
Okay, hold on, because now again, based on what I was understanding, at this point, now, I mean, so if this motion fails, then that's what we can do. I mean, remove, but at this point now, it's simply to vote on option B as it is again with the no new fireman's position. That's as I understand it.
Right, and Mr. Ellison is actually not going to vote on this one because it's a specific amendment to the ballot.
Okay. But you would still, does that change, let me ask this, does that change the number required
No.
to pass? So we still need it?
Because,
Okay.
yes, it does. Yes, it does. 7 to pass it at this point because whenever one has to abstain, it doesn't, you don't have to, count that number against it.
Okay.
So, on this vote, 7 would be required to pass this budget. because that one can't be counted against Mr. Gump one. Not absent, but the.
Any other discussion on it? Yeah, the motion right now is, if anybody's not, the motion right now is, we're looking at option B, which was the second one. I mean, just so you're aware of, option B doesn't have a sheriff's department plan in it. Again, the general fund, all employees would get a 4% raise across the board, as well as highway department would get a 4% raise, landfill a 4% raise. There would not be a new fireman position. It would cut, that would be eliminated. It would cut $2,500 from the recreation budget and from the EMA budget. And then it says that there are some general capital projects, which is just a highlight, that there would be $550,000 for school buses, as we've always done, as well as $125,000 for landfill equipment for our project that we're working on. And that would leave roughly, with that, and I'm just kind of doing the math based on what Ann had said the other day, that would leave an unsound fund balance of around $250,000, give or take.
When you say 4% across the board, that's not the school system.
No. Again, that's for all employees that are under the, under that. Yeah, you're right, because ours are kind of different. Any other discussion or question? All right, so Honey, you will do a roll call.
Love Henderson,
Yes.
Calvin Ball,
No.
Lonnie Ottinger,
No.
Clay Blazer,
No.
Cindy Holt,
Yes.
Terry Dawson,
No.
Andy Tripp,
No.
Shaleigh Benson,
No.
Ben Hicks,
No.
Robert Green,
No.
Mitch Fine,
No.
Gwen Roach,
No.
and Jimmy Lindsey.
Yes.
You skipped me.
You have to abstain.
Oh, okay.
But now this
That's
is
the
the
way I
motion,
understood it.
motion failed, correct?
Motion failed.
Keep us on track, Mr. Ellison was about to make a motion at this point, since that motion failed now, we can go into discussion about
Hang
the
on,
jury. What?
Oh, we're just doing some
We're
housekeeping.
just getting along.
Okay.
Okay, go.
And I know where Mr. Ellison is gonna come from. Let me just sort of let's kind of look at this in one particular regard. I know that there are several issues that obviously, I think that we're kind of coming from. Where are we gonna be able to meet to get a budget passed? What's that gonna take? Because like one of the things we'll go on out here, based on, and again, I'll just kind of look at this. The key difference between option A and B deal with, the biggest difference that I can see is the difference on the sheriff's department funding. And that's the sheriff's pay plan. So, one of my, and again, if I look at, you're looking at, I think it was 9 to 5. Again, 5 in favor of the first budget. And then the second one, though, we still had, it was 8 to 6. So it's, oh, it was 5 to 9 too. So then something tells me, all right, then what's our third option? I guess I'm at a loss. I don't know. I thought that the big issue was going to be, should we have the sheriff's department plan or not? But that, that doesn't seem to be being the situation that's holding us up. What's holding us back here? Let's talk. We've got to kind of come to some sort of a consensus. What's it going to take? What are our issues?
This is the ones that weren't at the finance committee meeting, so whatever they need to express.
Are there anything, what are some issues that we have there? I know some of them have been raised, but if that being the case, at this point in time, how do we solve that issue to adequately address your concerns? What does that include? I'm not
What's
sure.
the,
Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Ball.
make a motion, we leave the same budget we got last year, we give everybody a 4% raise. We do that.
Okay, let me think about how that's gonna,
That's pretty much what we did all year.
yeah, I believe, yeah, all right, it would be the same budget as last year. His his motion is that we would have, and I know that we need to pay attention so that we can do it, all right, that there would, basically, everybody would be getting a 4% pay cut. I mean, in essence, I think, is that not kind of what option B is? Except what?
The new hires and the.
So eliminate any new hires.
And all the extra money we're giving all the other places.
Okay. All right, so again, so I can understand that, so that they can have something to be able to write with, and that Ann would even know what to kind of create, so she can give us a short version here of what we would need to look at. So you just basically want, in essence, if I'm understanding you correctly, there would be option B. All right, obviously there would be no sheriff's pay plan. That would include all general fund departments, including the sheriff's department, the 4% raise, the highway department, the 4% raise, landfill with the 4% raise, and eliminating any new positions in all areas. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes.
And you made that in the form of a motion?
I just asked.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're asking, can
I
we?
mean, dude, I wouldn't hear it on.
Okay, well, I'll say this, I mean, if we, with that being the same in this one, as this one is on D, and I don't want to misspeak, but there basically, in essence, were 4 new positions that were added in this particular budget that we're looking at D as it is right here, correct? We had 4 positions, there was 1 in finance, there was, 2, 1 in landfill, and 2 in the fire department. Oh, there were 5.
I think, one, if you want me,
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
I believe that and you just asked the question, I'm sorry if I didn't hear you
Yeah.
correctly.
I thought I heard this emotion.
There was one position in finance, a bailiff, a corrections officer, a landfill employee, is what I can remember, and a fireman.
That's an option B.
That's an option B.
Yeah, but that's kind of what, and if I'm not mistaken, we cut those out, and, I mean,
And they're all scheduled to begin January 1st. That was one of the budget, I'm gonna say, compromises to start these positions January 1st. So right now in the budget, there are these 5 positions. And then each department made a case for why they were needed. And I don't know if you even want to hear any of that. I'm not trying to cover ground that's been covered in the committees, but there was discussion as to why they were needed. The position in landfill was because of the addition is supposed to take place, happen this year. The landfill is gonna take care of a lot of that work themselves instead of contracting it out. That's the reason for that position, so that the landfill manager, Ronnie Allen, can do a lot of that work himself. And so that's the reason for that position. Again, the finance position is because, we lost a position back, I guess now about 6 years ago, and I could say this here, Kim's getting ready to look at possibly leaving, and we don't have any backup for payroll when she's out, and some of you know her situation. We're to the point that, well, in any case, there's no backup in the office when our folks are gone, and we've had some issues about that. So the fireman position, Mr. Ellison would have to support that position. And in the jail, of course, the shortage for correction officers, and then the need for the bailiff, that the sheriff could discuss that and has, about the judge requiring additional. I mean, I'm not trying to support these, but these are some of the things that have been discussed in the committee. So the need for that. I'm not trying to speak for each department, but we've had quite a bit of conversation from the different departments about the need or not for these different positions. But in this B, there's 5 positions.
Brother Moderator, would that take the money out for the ADC that it was being put in there?
No,
no, because that is kind of just,
not unless you ask for it to be.
Not unless you ask, and that's also, again, I don't wanna say that part of that was moved around. Like when we made some cut, and again, I'm going back and I'm trying to remember, and Ann may remember more specifically, when we made those changes, again, we cut them from a variety of other, like, I mean, I wanna say, and it was by the tune of like maybe $10,000 or $15,000 here and there, we kinda cut from some specific line items, and then we moved at that point in time, that money to go directly into that
We
EDC.
moved some pennies into EDC based on starting those positions in mid-year.
Going back to the employees, the only reason I'm against the firemen is because the county mayor's over the fire department, she says they're not needed. Now, for the other four, which I wasn't aware of, to me, I don't think they should be hired in January. I think if they need them, they should be hired now when we approve this budget. I mean, if you need it in January, you need it now.
And one of the
Why would they ask for them?
One of the comments that I would say, I mean, and I think that it alludes to one of the issues that Mr. Green was talking about, I mean, and whenever we were looking on our budget, I mean, in our finance committee meeting, we were trying to come up with ways to get a balanced budget. And that was one of the ways that was developed. But I mean, by including them in the budget as a full year, well, we already know it's the 1st of September. You actually know you're not gonna use that 2 months worth of, although that can't be reflected in the way you budget it out. But you know that that's 2 months it won't be, and I'll just use the finance or in the landfill, those people have not been hired yet. So again, whenever you're putting that in there, you know that 2 months is not gonna be used, so to speak. But for the purposes of getting ready for next year, I mean, that means that all those half positions in this budget will have to be absorbed. That's something that next year, that department head, you know that it's gonna be an increase of every single one of those half-year positions. I mean, and that's an issue, but again, it was a compromise that we sort of developed to get to work to the point that we're at now.
When I first made the statement, if you didn't need them the first 6 months, you didn't need them the last 6. But if those 4 people are needed, to me, they're needed now, today, tomorrow. You know, if we're